Yeah, I just find it amazing that, the Quran is Allah is very bold in the Quran, in how he addresses Christians and their beliefs.
Mm.
Um, the verses we've covered thus far, I would argue, essentially every way the Trinity could be conceptualized. From
Yeah,
the first verse where Allah says, وَلَا تَقُولُوا ثَلَاثَةً, that's like a blanket statement, basically. Like any way you can conceptualize three, just don't do it.
yeah,
And then number two, Allah then pretty much addresses وَلَا تَقُولُوا ثَلَاثَةً. Well, I mean, even in that case, he's basically almost kind of specifically talking against tritheism, which is essentially, in a way, to say that, hey, even though you're saying you're believing in one God, you either fall into tritheism, which is three gods, which is polytheism or tritheism, or you say that each is one in three, which is the verse we just looked at, in Allah thalithu thalatha. I feel like Allah basically kind of covered it from all angles, in a way,
yeah, and exactly. And amongst Trinitarians, you have one self models where God is one self, one mind, but he's one mind, but there's still three persons somehow, but it doesn't quite work because a person has a mind, a separate mind. And what we find in the New Testament are interpersonal relations between the Father and the Son, at least. So this isn't just, sort of, so it doesn't quite work. It doesn't, to say that God is one person with one mind, that there's still three, there's one self of God, but the persons are defined by relations. A relation doesn't make a person. Like I have the relation of being a father and a son, but I'm not two separate persons. And then you have three-person models, so the first model sort of just collapses into modalism. The three-person model, I think, just collapses into tritheism. I mean, this idea, okay, there's three persons, they all share a divine essence. Okay, and sometimes Christians will use the example of, like, there's three people in a room. There's a father and his two children, but they're all equal in their humanity. So it's one humanity, but there's three separate and distinct persons. But the father only takes precedence over his son because of relations. He's the father of his son. But those are my critique to that. But there's still three people. That's three distinct human beings, right? It's not one entity. It's so in other words, if there's three persons who instantiate the kind of deity, that's still three gods. That's not one God. So I don't think there's any way out of that
Yeah.
that dilemma.